Last week, the maiden edition, we had people who introduced what the program is all about, the executive director, and of course, the project manager. Today in the studio, we're going to continue on this interesting and exciting topic. I am Vina Adams, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the second edition of this important conversation on climate change, disability, and inclusion. Now, last week we had a topic starting with what this whole program is going to be addressing, where we began exploring why climate action must be inclusive and why persons with disabilities cannot be left behind in conversations and decisions that affect their lives. Today we are taking that conversation a step further. When climate change happens, who feels the impact the most? And what happens when climate emergencies, environmental changes, and extreme weather events meet the realities already faced by persons with disabilities? Our focus today is climate change impact on persons with disabilities, like I say, and to help us understand this from lived experience and from the perspective of disability advocacy, I'm joined by two distinguished guests. We have Mr. Shindol Aaron Adamu, who is an amputee farmer and chairman of the Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, Plateau State Chapter. Good afternoon, and glad to have you join us again.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me this moment.
Yeah, and we also have Mr. Yenle Joshua Kefas, a visually impaired person and coordinator of the Climate Advocate Network for Persons with Disabilities in Plateau State. You're welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon, listener.
Yeah, gentlemen, I am happy that you guys are not new to this topic and not also new to Peace 90.5, because we are so much inclusive that this is somehow your home, and we want to take it as it were. So we will move today with the general discussion about the climate change. We want to understand the realities on the ground, how climate change affects persons with different disabilities, the challenges they face during climate-related emergencies, and what government, communities, and other stakeholders must do differently in addressing this. To start with the chairman of the Joint Network of Persons with Disabilities, Mr. Shindol, I want to know, from your personal experience as a person with a disability, how will you describe the impact of climate change on persons with disabilities in our state?
Thank you very much. Once more, good afternoon, listeners out there. Climate change is no longer a news, it is real. We are face to face with it daily. And of course, if I'm talking from personal experience, it has affected me in diverse ways as a person with disability and amputee. It has affected me in the farming front. As a farmer, a person with disability, I've suffered some losses as a result of this climate change. Part of which is as a result of heavy rain that led to flooding, and of course it washed off the farm crop while it is still on the farm. And another one was irrigation farming that I did. Of course, just early this year, towards the end of last year into the early part of this year, we did some farming, and you know, it goes with breeze. When there is breeze blowing all over, it aids the production of the particular crop I did. But because everywhere, if you remember early this year, January into February, there was no breeze at all. And so it affected us negatively. Of course, we maintained the irrigation, the application of water as we used to do. We didn't actually remember that we were supposed to factor this change in weather so that we reduce the application of the water.
Yeah.
So we did it as usual, and of course the thing yielded well, but water settled at the base, so it affected it, and it of course got rotten. if there is breeze, it dries it up easily, and then you do another application. So that is from my personal experience. But speaking generally for the people I represent, we are affected in diverse ways. Now, when there is heavy rain and flooding, person on wheelchair stand the risk of losing his or her wheelchair. Even myself, if I am caught up in it using artificial lake, it is not friendly with water. So if you just get caught up inside, it affects it and damages it, or it may require maybe repair. But if the damage is severe, you have to begin to think of how to get another one, and that has a ripple effect. It affects you economically also, because you have to begin to think of how to get a replacement. So for the visually impaired, it has also an impact on them, because flooding can cut off the road. It can erode part of the normal topography that if there is flooding, it can change it. And if you don't know that has happened, you find yourself in such a place, you stand the risk of maybe falling down. Even for us on wheelchair, we can't cross the road again. It brings about inaccessibility for persons with disabilities. Flooding can also lead to even damaging of homes, and that leads to displacement, and it exposes persons with disability to maybe new pattern of settlement, emergency settlement, where they will suffer lack of accessibility in terms of toilet facilities. Even the houses where they are taken to, most times they are not accessible. So it becomes very difficult for them and expose them to unpalatable condition. So, and of course, the climate change also have impact on us in terms of health. When the temperature is high, persons with albinism don't easily survive it. It has a very serious impact on their skin. And that leads to, it makes them become highly prone to cancer. And that is another health challenge issue that we are face to face with daily. It affects our livelihood. Like I talk about the farming, many of persons with disability, because of the discrimination we face in place of employment, many of them fall back on these farming activities and some minor businesses. And when this happens, it completely destroys what they easily relied on, depend on for their upkeep and their livelihood.
Well, I think you've said so much within this short period, and your passion about it actually shows that indeed you are a leader. Now, I'll hold on to you. Just hold on a bit. Something just came, and I need to ask Mr. Yenle, what are some of the ways climate change is affecting persons with disabilities differently from persons with disabilities?
Sorry, affecting persons with disabilities different from persons with disabilities?
From persons without disabilities.
Without disabilities, rather.
Roughly. All right. Now let me begin by appreciating equal basis for development initiative, for bringing up this initiative. And of course, PRTV has remained committed to us. And so we must appreciate them. Sincerely, when we mention, or if in the mention of climate change, it's a phenomenon that affects everybody. It has no respect to ability or no disability. But to be very straightforward, for if a person without disability is complaining, then it means for a person with disability, his own should be 2 or 3 times or even more. What am I saying? More often than not, persons with disabilities rely on persons without disabilities. For obvious reasons, people are mostly familiar with those of us with, say, visual impairment, hearing impairment, and the like, that we often walk around. There are more critical disabilities that you don't even see them outside. People like those with Down syndrome, autism, and the like, these are disabilities that can only be managed. Now, critical effect of climate change is that it gets into the aspect of food insecurity. Just as my chairman rightly pointed, because of climate change, there are times that you find out that the yield, from planting of crops may not give the desired result as expected. And so it may result to shortage of food supply. And when that happens, somebody that you are depending on others to give you, they have not even gotten for themselves. Talk more of you. That's the language we often use on us. People will say we have not finished with those that are able to talk more of you, that you're not even able. Stuff like that. That's on another side. Another impact of another impact of this crop and issues, like it even really gets to a point that you get desertification of some areas and communities.
Yeah. And
that's why it pushes for some of these insecurities that we are seeing around, because some people have to leave their community, and some may not be that so good and patient enough. They come with force to take over communities of others, which is some of the experiences we are having here on the Plateau and neighboring states. And so in situations like that, where crisis may erupt, you find out that those who suffer it the most are persons with disabilities. And a typical example is one of our friends, Matthew, in somewhere around Dong in Jos North, last 4 years or so. When these kind of people came, they killed all his families. His wife and 2 children, all of them killed, and he's visually impaired. So you discover that, I agree that sometimes it may not necessarily be that they are pushed, but this is also a reason anyway. More often than not, as he mentioned, there are disabilities that health situations, because of heat, they may not want to they can't bear it, like those with hearing, albinism, right? When the sun is too sharp, it burns their skin and results into what we call the normal skin cancer and stuff like that. So these are very peculiar situations. I can go on and on, but, because of time, maybe summary. It has diverse effects. All kind of disabilities have their own ripple effects, and climate change is never a friend.
Okay, I want to ask you this question. After that, Mr. Shindoltu will still air his own as well. Are persons with disabilities adequately represented in climate change discussions and decision-making processes in the Plateau?
I can categorically say absolutely no. I stand to be corrected. You see, the mistake that sometimes we make is, when people have an event, they plan, they have done everything, and they want to talk about something, or they just want to launch something, they call you to a hotel and they said you have been included. That's not inclusion. Inclusion means the process of planning is all involving. Let everybody be part of it. Just as we are discussing here, I say the way it affects me, the other person says the way it affects him. Now, the document that is going to be written will carry all the versions, all the way others are feeling, and then you put it together and it becomes a useful document. But where it is at the point of maybe implementation, in fact, more often than not, is what we call an afterthought kind of a thing. Just because somebody says, let's invite these people, and somebody says, have you remember a person with disabilities? And somebody says, who is their leader? Let's call their leader. We are talking about in the estimate by the United Nations standard. We are talking about over 700,000 persons with disabilities on the Plateau, and you call one person and you call that participation. I don't think so. If you go to such given program, we will see representations of different groups, and all of those groups are persons without disability, and you only have one person with disability. How do I, like me now, who is a person with visual impairment, go across the 17 local governments to step down this to hearing impaired, those with Down syndrome, those with autism, those with all the forms of disability? It's practically impossible.
Okay, I think Mr. Shindol will also, since you are representing this particular community, what do you have to say as regards to this question, and what effort have you made to see that the persons with disabilities are included in decision making and policy making as well?
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have been carried along to an extent, but not to the exact level we desire. As I speak to you, I am a member of Plateau State Climate Assembly, and even the executive director of Equal Basis, she is, and we have also a visually impaired. The Climate Assembly is made up of 40 persons, I guess, and then we have 3 there. Now, and if we're to go by the provision of 5%, I think we're almost there. So, but the unfortunate thing is we had serious argument during the policy dialogue.
Exactly.
To a point that I remember one of the what do you call them now? One of the
facilitators?
Not the facilitator, the consultant.
Okay.
Had to argue that we people, anytime things are not presented the way we want it, we feel nothing is done. And that was the truth, because at the point I even opted that I was going to go out. But thankful enough, NGOs have helped the issue, and I think Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, to be precise, are trying to really recognize our presence in what they do. But like I said, during the dialogue, it was a serious, heated debate. I had opportunity to ask one of the presidential aide on climate change when they came to Plateau for a program, and I told him, because I went through the national policy and persons with disability was passively mentioned. It's not as if they actually dwell on it, digest our issues out, brought out our issues, and of course when you get to action plan, you tie to whatever are the issues. No such thing was done. You see that of women there, you see that of youths explicitly dealt with, but ours was just mentioned. And when I argued with the consultant, she was like, your own is health condition. I said, it's not a health condition. It needs to be looked into properly. Our issues need to be brought out, so that when you're talking of action plan, you're tying it to specifics. You know, so these things, sometimes you feel as if we're just brought into it, like he rightly said, as an afterthought, or just to fulfill righteousness, let us not leave them out. But the truth of the matter, if we want to handle issues that will address the challenges of Nigerians generally, it must be truly inclusive, and we must be intentional. Because if you get it right at the level of persons with disabilities, I guarantee you every other person's issue is taken care of, because we are the most vulnerable. And if you are addressing our issue, how else will you leave how can you leave another person's issue out? So getting it at our own level is a sure way of addressing every other person's issue when it comes to issue of climate change. So I think we're still, okay, you asked what are we doing? We're still engaging, we're still lobbying, we're still carrying out advocacy to different MDAs, because we cannot be there if we sleep. And though that is quite challenging, sometimes when you get to some places, the responses you get, you wouldn't want to go out again. But we can't give up. We are determined, we're resilient, that we will get through, and until we have the last person with disability given proper accommodation, full inclusion that we are desirous of, we won't give up.
Thank you. I think you make mention of other organizations, talking about maybe like other NGOs who are into such work on climate change. I want to know if disability organizations are sufficiently involved when it has to do with when government develops climate and disaster management policies and programs, because I know there are such programs that are from maybe foreign countries and all that. Do you think disability organizations are sufficiently involved when government develops climate and disaster management policies and programs?
We are not, sir. We are not sufficiently involved in the whole thing. Like I rightly pointed, thanks to SIGAT, I will have to mention my Heart of Hope, who championed a project for CBM on climate change. And that was how we brought on board. And of course, due to their persistent insistence that persons with disability should be part of the process, it has brought us some level of visibility in the Ministry of Environment, like I earlier said. But for other ministries, other bodies, most of the times it's just like a lip service for me. The other day I was challenging Nasrel. They said they involve person with disability, and I asked a question: how were we involved? Where were we carried along? Because I am the leader, and I've not known where our people were invited for any of their programs. And of course, the answer wasn't forthcoming. So most of the times, in fact, if you see where we're involved, some of them do it because they feel they may attract some sympathy when there is mention. I have to be sincere to you. When there is a mention of persons with disabilities, it easily flies for them. But deep inside them, that is not what they are after. So the involvement is not really what we want. They're just doing it, and we will keep pushing, like I earlier said. We'll keep engaging until we get there. People must come to a point of realizing that whatever we're doing, we're not just doing it for a person with disability now. You are fixing your tomorrow.
Of course.
Nobody is praying that you should be, but chances are you could be, either by age or by accident. I'm an accident victim. So it can happen to anybody. And we're not praying, but we are asking that let's make the society fully accommodative to everybody.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I hate it when time gets to be giving us signal, especially when the discussion is going well. Well, I want to know, Mr. Yanley, what role can persons with disabilities themselves play in climate action rather than being seen only as beneficiaries of climate interventions? You say that, then Mr. Shundo will round up because our time has gone.
Lovely. As I earlier mentioned, I said the issue of climate change affects everybody. Those of us with disabilities are not left out. In fact, we are the most heated. We are just as any other person in the society. It's only when the opportunity is not given that we don't go out to perform. But he mentioned some organizations that have succeeded in helping us and speaking out and bringing us to the fore in terms of knowing more about climate change. Let's not forget about Equal Basis Development Initiative. I think it is because of them that we are here. And so they are bringing this matter to limelight. And they have succeeded in training 50 of us, and then about 30 of us have been earmarked to stand in as an assembly to continue with the network and with up-to-date information and passage of information about climate change as it affects persons with disabilities. Now, persons with disabilities can do any other thing that others can do. For instance, we know that this issue of climate change calls for resilience. We have to adapt with the new world order. Let me put it in that way. The climate has just changed the way things have been done. We realize that there are some even human factors that should be corrected. For instance, we have fallen a lot of trees without any replacement.
Yes.
Persons with disabilities can plant trees. You don't wait for others. This is something that anybody with disability can easily do in your doorstep, at the backyard, and stuff like that. In your farm, if you're able to manage to go to the farm, you can plant one. For me, like somebody who has visual impairment, you can be there to nurture your trees or whichever one you're able to make. Stuff like that. We at our doorsteps, it is a common phenomenon that we have the waterways, you have the drainages that passes around. Don't allow dirty things go into you can go in there and clean the drainages. These are things we can always do, because so long as we do not clean these drainages, the water will get stocked, and then when rain flows, it become overflooded, and then flood occurs, and the danger we have been running away happens. And so these are things we can do. We can send and preach the message to others, including our family members, our neighbors. Tell them the risks that are daring with our carelessness and what have we. And so if we have known it, we have the responsibility, and of course exactly that's what we are doing, including what we are doing right away, sharing with the public what we know and what we know should be the best practice. If we are able to do that, I'm believing that we are going to have a good Plateau and a good Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shindol. Just 1 minute.
All right, thank you. Just like he rightly said, the other day I was just by the road and I saw one gentleman sweep all the trash from their garage and came to the waterway by the express and just threw it inside. And I quickly called his attention. What do you think you are doing? He said, no, if rain comes, you wash it off. I said, where it will get stuck, what do you think will happen to the people there?
Exactly.
So, and I'm a person with disability, and I'm seeing that this one without disability is causing problem for us in the society. I was quickly drawing his attention. And we do a lot of those things all over the place. Even within ourselves, we sensitize ourselves how to respond to climate change, how to avoid being caught up with disasters that are avoidable. And of course, again, the whole thing, we will ensure that barriers are taken out of our way so that we will be able to also do the needful and contribute our quota to the society.
And that is the size of our package this wonderful Monday afternoon on Climate Inclusive Action on Peace 90.5 FM stereo. Today we have heard clearly that climate change does not affect everyone in the same way. For persons with disabilities, climate-related challenges can be made worse by inaccessible information, limited participation and decision-making, so many emergency responses and barriers to essential services. Our conversation today reminds us that disability inclusion cannot be an afterthought in climate action. Persons with disabilities must be part of the planning, decision-making, and implementation of climate policies and programs. A big thank you to our guest, Mr. Shindol Aaron Adamu, for being available and also sharing living experiences. He is the chairman of the Joint National Association of Persons with Disabilities, Plateau State Chapter. And of course, I had Mr. Yanle, also Joshua Kefas, the coordinator of the Climate Action Network for Persons with Disabilities, Plateau State, for sharing their experiences and perspective with us. And to you, our listener, thank you for staying with us and being part of this important conversation. Climate Inclusion Action is part of the project Driven Inclusive Climate Policy and Resilience, Advancing Global Disability Summit Commitments in Plateau State. It's implemented by Equal Basis Development Initiative, EBDI, with support from Disability Rights Fund, DRF. Remember, climate action is everyone's business. A big thank you to the executive producer of this program, Rita Kachalompam. The producer is Patrick Dung. I work alongside Mr. Adetula. He is the Monitoring and Evaluation Officer, EBDI. Lawrence Danat, okay, Lawrence has gone. Jacob Asut is our studio manager, and Kargwag Binkat is our engineer.